All right, we're back with the buzz. I'm Joe Davidson of the Sacramento Bee. We appreciate everybody being here. We got CIF state basketball finals this week at Golden One. Can you believe it's been 3 years since it was there? We had the pandemic. We're back. We're getting closer to normal. I'm not going to say normal until we have no more masks and all that. But we're going to be joined by my editor and my friend Jim Patrick here in just a moment, and Cameron Saluno. We also like him very much as well as we break down everything that's going on. And first thing I want to touch on is let's be nice out there. We have a referee shortage in all sports because people just hound on these people. And I always think if you're going to heckle referees, why don't you go umpire a couple of games or referee a second half of a basketball game or a football game? And we also need to remind people, sportsmanship matters. And this big story about Oak Ridge girls soccer winning Bears of the central section in Fresno area. And it just takes one voice in the stands to sully a whole moment. We've written about this exhaustively. Jim Patrick and I will talk about that. So we're in this business because we like to talk about the achievements of teams and players, and we like to report on them. That's why we've been doing it so many years. But we have to also touch on these issues that are just just wrong and sometimes disgusting. We're going to bring in Jim right now to kind of talk about this. Jim, let's play that video really quick. David Crutchwell, our producer, and this is the
and my computer is freezing on.
There we go. And if we could hear that.
Yeah.
I don't know if we could hear it, but you could hear that
Here it is.
There it is. There it is. Why are we running this? Because we need to just remind people that this happened. That's Sarah Wilson of Buchanan, and she hit that shot on that penalty kick in that championship game in El Dorado Hills. She immediately told the referees, hey, there's a problem here. They, as you can see, Jim, they're conferring. And so there was a student from Oak Ridge identified who made these monkey sounds. It's not funny. It's not cool, but it's hurtful and it's disgusting and it's wrong. And it casts Oak Ridge in a bad light. You can see these the referees talking to the coaches. Jim, you and I have talked about this. We've written about it. This is a bad look, and this is really unfortunate.
It's a bad look, and Joe, we talked about this too. That there are people who deny that this happened. We've heard from both sides of this. People who are extremely upset and people who are extremely defensive, and it's important to note that emotions are high right now, and they should be high right now because this is. It's disgusting. There's no other word for it. And, the bottom line is this happened. It was wildly inappropriate and it was dealt with. And people disagree with how it was handled. People can disagree with the severity, I guess. I'm not one of those people, but the bottom line, Joe, is there's no room for deniers in this situation. We have multiple videos. The audio is extremely clear. This happened. It was gross, and it was dealt with pretty quickly. I mean, you got to say that Oak Ridge took this seriously. It seemed like after the fact, and it's like you say. I will write these stories every time because it's important to talk about racism and it's important to shine a light on it. But man, it takes something out of you, and that's why I'm out of town right now because I just had to get away after a weekend spent with this. So yeah, it was a heavy situation, wasn't it, Joe?
Yeah, and it is. And I've been to Oak Ridge High School many times over the years, and a lot of good students, a lot of good teachers and moments. But it only takes one student. And Aaron Palm, the Oak Ridge principal, said, this happened. It's real. We have to address this. We've got to work on our sportsmanship. The school's had incidents before. McClatchy girls basketball incident from 2016 when there was some racial heckling and body shaming and just wrong. And it only takes one student to make the whole school look bad. The principal it said as much. They located the student and going to hit him with punishment. They could not tell us exactly what the punishment is. And what we'll talk about here in a moment, Jim, is what does the CIF do from here and what can they do?
And I want to mention too, Joe, nobody's a bigger fan of heckling than me. I am loud. I'm a smart aleck, and I'm not afraid to be loud and a smart aleck at sports events. but I don't get anywhere near that line. I get near the line of my mom being embarrassed by me, but even that is like I once got flipped the bird by a center fielder for the New York Yankees, but I did not say anything. I just encouraged him to run in to catch a ball, and the ball eventually flew over his head for an RBI triple for the Minnesota Twins. So there are ways. I don't think anybody's saying you can't rag on the opposing team. It's just there's a line, and then there's what happened at Oak Ridge, which is well beyond that line.
Decency and and we've talked about this too, Jim. From all my years doing this, Jim, I have never seen our section playoffs and our NorCal playoffs with such great attendance and great crowds and great enthusiasm and rooting section. High school sports is the thing right now. And maybe that's the residue of the pandemic. People appreciate what they didn't have, but kudos to these incredible crowds and parents and adults and people in the community in the rooting sections, soccer, boys soccer, girls soccer, basketball. But what happens sometimes, unfortunately, is more people leads to more possibilities of boorish behavior. I think the behavior can be corrected, and it has to be addressed and corrected. And I think we're going to see the CIF, they haven't announced anything, the governing body will, I would guess, punish Oak Ridge by taking away home playoff games in the future. Could be for multiple sports. We don't know. Why is that a big deal? Well, when you don't get to host playoff games as a higher seed, it's a reminder of why you got in a little bit of trouble, and it's a big loss for the revenue that helps fund other programs on campus. And we're taking a look at Sierra Wilson again here. She's going to Fresno State. I think she handled herself well. I think she didn't win the game, but I think she stands as a champion. Kudos to Oak Ridge for doing the right thing after the fact in reaching out. Aaron Palm, the principal, wrote emails and talked to the family and apologized. That's what they could do. It's all everything, but it's our best effort.
It is a hell of a thing for a teenager to deal with, too, Joe. Hell of a thing for a teenager to be dealing with.
Awful, completely. And I've texted back and forth with Sarah's father, Brian. We hope to talk on the phone at some point. So it's just unfortunate. And again, these things have happened over the years. I remember Matt Barnes played in the NBA for 14 years. He's from Del Campo High School, 1997-98. He was at a game at Casa Roble, a rival, and he's at the free throw line, and somebody's waving bananas at him. That's not funny. That's not cool. It wasn't cool or funny then. It's not cool or funny now. And Matt Barnes still seethes about that. It still bothers him. So we've got to get all our – and the schools – do talk regularly with their rooting section. Oak Ridge principal Aaron Palm said we talk with our rooting section leaders every week. All schools do, and we've seen it at these games, Jim, soccer, basketball, football, these massive rooting sections. Kudos to that. It just adds a great vibe. But you always see a faculty member, sometimes a security member, sometimes even a sheriff's deputy standing nearby, sometimes babysitting, because kids are going to push the limit.
I think that's a good transition point to talk about the next thing, which was I went to cover a couple Liberty Ranch basketball games and Liberty Ranch down in Galt, D4 school, which is on the smaller side, still big, relative to Iowa schools or wherever. But, we went out to Liberty Ranch and the gym is absolutely packed and the student section is packed. And it's the student section too for the visiting teams both nights. And particularly the first night that the team from the Bay Area was playing Liberty Ranch, they're doing the choking symbol at the Liberty Ranch students. They're talking smack. Exactly. But the Liberty Ranch students just waved, because the way the game ended.
That's good-natured.
Yeah, and that's fun. There was no...
And so that's why we like covering high school sports. And so we're going to show this great video of a NorCal semifinal, and you take it from here.
Look at this distance. I mean, this is young Nate. Nate there is my guy. He's probably 35 feet from the basket. And he tells me after the game, look at this. He tells me that he practices his shots. Watch his feet. Watch his feet kick forward. Like, he is putting everything he's got into this shot. And the crowd
and that's a game winner. And that's incredible.
Right. They only needed a 2, but instead they got a 35-footer. And because they had led by 16 points. It was 26-10 after the first quarter. Because that had slid all the way to overtime, This is a crowd that have been kind of watching things go the wrong direction. And look at this guy, like out of nowhere, Nate comes up with the 3-pointer from 35 feet. And absolute gut
remember it
punch
forever.
to Carlsbro. But hats off to Liberty Ranch, just went nuts. And it was
And look at all
probably
those
the most
students.
festive atmosphere I've been around, to be honest.
This is the best of high school sports. The Oak Ridge girls soccer was the best of sports on the field, the worst of fan behavior. But so Liberty Ranch beats Carmont of the Bay Area in that game. But then they don't have Cody Smith, their terrific 6'7" junior forward, broken hand. They lose the NorCal final. Still a great year. We only have one local team left. Modesto Christian is kind of our local, but immediate is Elk Grove in boys division 2, so not bad. But Jim, let's while we have you here, you're big on softball. Our good friend Pete
season,
is big on softball. Exactly. And softball preview this week is on sacby.com. Pete DeFore had a top 20, so check that out. But here's what the top 10 looks like. Some of these teams, you covered some of these teams, and there was no playoff last spring. That's why some of the records look small, but some familiar faces.
Yeah, I was going to say it should look familiar to people. I mean, the big move is number 7, Rockland. They were on top of last year's rankings for the entire spring. I don't believe they were ever not ranked number 1 last year. But really, it was other than Rockland down at 7 instead of up at number 1. This is the same order. These are the same teams. Granted, we haven't seen many games to judge off of, but there's Sheldon and Elk Grove are bitter rivals, and they are right next to each other, and they're right next to each other in the rankings. And we expect that. I would be shocked if Sheldon and Elk Grove are not ranked 1 and 2 the entire spring. The order could flip, but they're going to be squaring off quite a bit. And St. Francis, number 3, isn't going to face Sheldon and Elk Grove all that often, but they have a tough schedule as well. They're playing Roseville. They beat Roseville in 10 innings this spring, so. It's going to be a lot of the same faces because, Joe, we didn't have anybody graduate. The only school that had a bunch of seniors was Rockland, and they had a bunch of seniors who were impact seniors. They went to UCLA, they went to Idaho, Boise State. So Rockland lost a bunch of seniors, but boy, everybody else just brought everybody back. So here we go. Let's play 2.
That's great. And Jim, good to have your input on all of this. You're up on the ski slopes. You already zipped through and probably plowed through kids and everything, and they're heckling you now. And the choke sign.
I don't know how to turn, Joe. I'm just out here screaming down the hills, just like leaning back, just drinking soda. It's fine.
Bat out of hell, downhill. Hey, look
it's
out
Minnesota,
for the
guys. We have no fear.
That's exactly right. Jim, good to see you. We'll see you soon. That's
Sounds
Jim
good. Thanks,
Patrick. Our editor and our friend. Thanks, Jim. And those softball rankings, we'll have those updated. Pete DeFore is our good friend. He's been around for years. He just does a great job. Softball is big time around here forever. A lot of kids go on to full scholarships. They play in the College World Series. They play professionally. A lot of them come back and coach. So really cool to all of that. All right. As we touched on just a moment ago, we only have one local team, immediate Sacramento area. Modesto Christian outside of area is going to be in the Open Division Championship against Centennial of Corona on Saturday night. Saturday at 4 p.m. at Golden 1, the Oak Grove Thundering Herd will play Foothill of Santa Ana for the Division 2 state championship. What a great run. Sarah Nevis, my media pal at the Sacramento Bee, had some great videos. So let's run that as I continue to talk. And this is Elk Grove with a win over Branson of the Bay Area. Tight game. And look, the students rushed the floor. These are home sites. That's Amir Britton playing defense. Could you imagine trying to ward this guy off? Look at him go. Relentless, constant, also a terrific scorer. It's just the way he goes. And so the Elk Grove there's Money Lot, Dejan Money Lot, best nickname anywhere. There's Amir on offense. A lot of role players, Jordan Hess, Isaiah King, Big Grant plays forward to help the star power of Dejan Lott right there. Like he comes and follows up. He's 6'9", very active, played his best game of his life the other night with 17 points, 14 rebounds. There's Dustin Monday, the coach with the plaque. He went to school there. He's coached there for a long time. This is kind of cool right here. This is Todd Reiswig in the green. He's a longtime mathematics teacher at Elk Grove, handing out championship medals. He's part of the CIF tournament committee to run this. So he's a link to the past. He coached Elk Grove basketball to a section championship in 1995. There's the rooting section with a lot of football guys, a lot of baseball guys. I see Simi Pali, national recruit. There's Ethan Archuleta, the star quarterback. That's a school that does it right. They have a good time, and they insist that they're going to get their rooting section out there at Golden One. And the coach is hoping to. Dustin Monday said we need every ounce because we're up against it. The season ends here, so just a great job by Elk Grove and the Thundering Herd. Had stories all week on SACB.com. All right, let's get Cameron Saluno on board, and there he is. And Cameron with his fake backdrop, fake news, fake backdrop. He's never played a piano in his life. That's a big. That's the one he had last week. But Cameron, welcome aboard. We got hoops galore. While I have you here, before we talk, baseball and run your rankings here, you have a story running Friday, first thing in the morning on SACB.com about a star player for the state's #1 team, Centennial of Corona, 29-game winning streak. He's a local guy from the 916. What's his name? What's his position? How good is he? And how come he's not here?
Well, Jared Mccain is from Sacramento. He grew up here, and heading to 8th grade, he moved down to Southern California, was homeschooled for a year, and then he enrolled at Centennial, which is the #1 team probably in California and one of the best teams in the entire nation. He said he just wanted to compete down there. He wanted to take basketball more seriously. And so I'm really excited for that story to come out. He's a great kid. He has offers from big schools around the country, Duke, Gonzaga, USC. I mean, you name it, he probably has interest from there. I mean, he also he's a celebrity. I was talking to his brother last night, and he said he's a celebrity now. And I mean, he has over 200,000 followers on Instagram, almost 1 million followers on TikTok. I mean, if you walk into a gym, everyone knows who he is. And I thought it was really interesting.
He's a 6'3" guard with all these great skills. He's only a junior national recruit. He's got personality. He's fun. He's having the time of his life. He's going to have a big home crowd at Golden One. And Centennial takes on Modesto Christian. That should be a great way to cap the whole high school basketball season. It's back at Golden One, the signature event. So, and this is a story that we're going to work on big time during the spring too. He basically went to Southern California as a basketball move. His family moves down there, and it's paid off for him. He had an older brother who played at Folsom. This is kind of a trend and a theme. We don't have to hit top heavy on that now. We're going to do that big story next month. But that's an impact guy, and he'll be a target on Saturday for Modesto Christian to try to contain because they're loaded. They're outscoring teams, Cameron. Centennial like 75-44. That's loaded, and they're a public school, so doing some good things down there.
It's a huge task for Modesto Christian. I mean, I take it back to when we played, or when my school Wood Creek played Bishop Montgomery in the state championship game in 2017. I mean, Bishop Montgomery was a top 5 team in the entire nation. They'd beat Mater Dei. They went through the Southern California bracket, and Wood Creek was just a public school. And yeah, we were ranked in the top 25 in the nation. But I mean, had no chance because it was they were just too good. And kind of going back,
I was in the Open Division Finals, and Jordan Brown, a national recruit, 6'10" standout player, and those gritty teammates for Coach Paul Hayes made a run in that game, and people were excited. But you're right; it's the Open Division is for the heavyweights, the super heavyweights, usually the private schools, and Chino Hills. Has been a great public school team with the Ball brothers and all that. And here comes Centennial, maybe the next great public school. So it's nice to see because it's been dominated so often.
Hey, I have some break news I'll break on there. They just ended MLB lockout, which is pretty cool. So we'll have baseball back. Yeah, well, they just ended lockout right now. I just got a text from a few people I know. So
why don't you go bang out a happy tune? Yeah.
Speaking of baseball, we got the high school
go bang out a happy tune on your piano over there, Cameron. Oh,
yeah. Speaking of baseball, we got baseball to talk about. High school baseball.
Yes. Let's run these this graphic of the baseball top 10. Cameron, you ran a top 25. So see that whole list. Check out SACB.com. A lot of good baseball. These are all from records from the spring. We didn't have playoffs last year. So the floor is yours, sir. It looks like some familiar teams, Elk Grove, Wood Creek, Granite Bay, but drop some some players of note off these teams.
Yeah, I mean, McClatchy, I mean, they're number 5, but they have the best player in the entire area and probably even almost in Northern California, Malcolm Moore. He's a catcher going to Stanford. He was our B player of the year during the spring. He's projected possibly as a top 2 round draft pick and then MLB draft if he decides to sign. I think it's really cool that he's coming back and he's only a junior. Obviously, you have Franklin, too, with Nolan Stevens, who is probably the best junior player in the entire area. He's off to Mississippi State. And then we have Granite Bay, Wood Creek, who are playing today actually at Wood Creek at 3:30. I might go check that game out. 2 top 3 teams in the area. And then Elk Grove, I mean, you can't say enough about them. Their best player, or one of their best players from the spring, and Noah Cantor, he's a catcher. He'll miss the entire spring season because he tore his Achilles during the offseason. But Wood Creek and Elk Grove, they end the season 1-2, and that's exactly where they're going to start. And then obviously in the bottom half of the top 10, you have Oak Ridge and Rockland, who Rockland beat Wood Creek earlier last week. Wood Creek beat Oak Ridge, and Vista Del Lago, Rio Americano, and Del Campo. Those are all 3 teams from the Cal. They all should be really good. Vista Del Lago brought back almost everybody. They're led by star senior Caden Knapp, who's going to Sacramento State. He hits, he pitches, he does a little bit of everything. So it's a really it's a fun time for Sacramento area baseball. It's really cool. I've always said Sacramento's a baseball town. It backs up if you look at the numbers of how many guys are going on to play in college. I mean, if you look at, I joke with some people, if you look at Arizona baseball, the University of Arizona, their opening day lineup, 5 of their 9 players were from Sacramento area. So yeah, it just shows how talented this area is, and it's really going to be a really fun season.
It's a great job, Cameron. And O'Haron is a power pitcher for Rockland going to Stanford, so there's some top star power there. Malcolm Moore is a great senior slugger. I think he's already got 3 home runs. Batting practice at McClatchy are great games. They just got great power, and a lot of these teams they schedule up. And De La Salle is a longtime powerhouse from the Bay Area, always NorCal high ranked, state ranked. De La Salle is playing at Elk Grove today. So we see a lot of that. And Cameron, we're going to have a different twist at the end of this baseball season where we have, for the first time, a section championship that's been around forever. But after that, we're going to have a Northern California championship. And let's bring it on. I think it's going to be fun. We might have some of those Fresno teams, Buchanan, Clovis, those powerhouses may be in that NorCal field here. And a lot of those teams already play. De La Salle plays Jesuit every year, and Valley Christian of San Jose plays Jesuit and Elk Grove every year. And so they're familiar with each other. So I think NorCal playoffs is going to be a blast for baseball and softball.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. I agree with you. I think it's going to be awesome. Some of the coaches, they aren't really familiar with how the format's going to work. Is it going to be like the soccer playoffs where if you make the section title game, you get an automatic bid and then they go competitive equity? I think what's going to be interesting is obviously we don't know what's going to happen this season with how our top teams are going to fare. But in historic context, if you look at some of the basketball rankings, some of the teams from the section didn't get a great seat. And I could see honestly happening this year. But I think people are going to realize how good Sacramento area baseball is. I mean, if there would have been NorCal playoffs in 2020, I think Jesuit would have been the best team in Northern California. They would have been probably a top 5 team in the state. I mean, they had star power with the Suzaks. They had other players coming back. So it's kind of unfortunate that we haven't had NorCal playoffs for the last 2 years because of COVID, and we didn't even have a postseason. So it's going to be awesome for it to be back, and I think it's going to really show how good this area is as a whole.
I agree. And this has been discussed for years in having a NorCal playoff for baseball and softball. Why didn't it happen before? Well, some of these section championships would end a week or two after graduation. So what are you going to do? Spill it all the way into July? And so you have to shorten the calendar. And it took forever for the CIF football playoffs to start. It finally happened in 2006. That's been a blast. The state basketball championships, Cameron, this weekend at Golden One is the 40th such event. It started in 81. If our math is not off, we didn't have state finals last year or the year before. So state, it's hard to get a state tournament in California because there's so many schools and so many different divisions. High school sports just continues to boom. It's really cool. Cameron, closing thought to you as we let you go.
One more thought. How many state basketball championships have you been to in your career? Because I've only been to one. And this will be my second this upcoming weekend.
I've been to pretty much all of them since 1988. And that's when I was about 5 years old, allegedly, give or take. But it's been a blast, and some of those were held at the Oakland Coliseum, and a lot of them were held at Arco Arena in Sacramento, which is going to be taken down here in a couple of weeks, and in of recent years at Golden One. So just really cool. It's a neat thing. So Cameron, we'll see you at Golden One. Get on Marketplace on Facebook and see how much you can get for that baby grand piano, and we'll split the proceeds.
I think this house that's in my background is something I probably won't be able to afford in my lifetime. So kudos to whoever house this is on the whatever you call it, the blank images on this screen.
That's awesome. Cameron, you're the best. Keep up the good work. Check out Cameron's stuff every day on SACB.com. He's also got some great work with his polls on top players and best rooting sections on Instagram, Cameron Salerno Media. So great to have him. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Again, a big picture theme is if you go to a high school sporting event, appreciate it. Don't ruin it. Don't sully it with boorish behavior and anything that just might look bad or sound bad or is just grossly insensitive. Just act like you belong there. And it's not a new thing with bad sportsmanship. It's been too long. It's been happened too much. And again, I want to emphasize that the CIF and their schools, they talk about it all the time on campus. So it's not like everybody's ignorant and their heads in the sand. But these topics have to be touched. So when you go out there and be kind to the referees and the umpire, there's a reason. There's a shortage of high school referees and umpires across the country. It's because they are fed up with being blasted, chased out of stadiums, cursed, mocked, all of that stuff. Not cool, not warranted. If you could do a better job, stretch, hydrate, go out and work a few innings. Probably can't and probably wouldn't. So keep your mouth shut. But cheer for the good stuff that we have. And also remember this, a year ago, we had none of this. COVID denied everything. And so let's appreciate what we had. We had great crowds, the best I've ever seen in all my years at the B. Let's keep it going. We appreciate everybody. We're going to have more next week on the Buzz as we wrap up basketball. We appreciate Sarah Nevis, our great photographer, Jim Patrick, our editor and our friend, Cam Salerno, our relentless worker and talented friend and guru, David Caraccio, Jim Silva, everybody. We thanks for everything in the behind the scenes, and we will see everybody next week.